Welcome back to the CharCole Podcast. I'm Cole Harsh, joined by Charlie Preen. This week is episode 19, the conference championship game for college football. No, we do not have a wheel this week. We're just going to go off the top of our heads, see if we like that better. First, we're going to recap week 14 in our picks.
So last week we had Thanksgiving. It was kind of an off week. We didn't get everyone's picks in that podcast, to our podcast. That was kind of fun. And I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Now we're focused towards basketball and Christmas now. So so last week Dawson, who is tied for second, took number 5 Alabama, which was 3.5 over Auburn. And that was incorrect. Bo Nix played pretty well. That was fun to watch, and Auburn took that game. So now a stat here. Nick Saban's lost to Tiger teams in 2019 3 times: the Auburn Tigers, the Clemson Tigers, and the LSU Tigers. So Alabama fell a little bit. They're like 11 or 12 now, I think.
They're out of playoff contention, unless all of the top 11 teams.
Yes, I heard there's like a 1.3% chance they get in. Mississippi State, his upset was Mississippi State, which is 1.5 over Ole Miss. That was correct. And let's head on to Cole.
So I came into the week lone possession of first place, which is really surprising considering there's 7 people in this pick'em. I chose Penn State, which was favored by 39 points over Rutgers. That was correct. And my upset, I chose number 15 Auburn, plus 3.5 over Alabama, and that was correct as well.
This week I was tied for second. I took number 12 Wisconsin. Always have to take Wisconsin. Took them over Minnesota, even though I really hoped Minnesota could take this game. I was really rooting for Minnesota. Even though I'm a Wisconsin fan, it would have been nice to see Minnesota try to get into that. And then they'd have to play Ohio State, so you never know what would happen. Big Ten Championship, we'll get to that in a little bit. Then I took my upset, number 21 Oklahoma State over number 7 Oklahoma, just hoping to try to get this one. Couldn't get it, so that was incorrect.
Mr. Denning came into the week tied for last with Mr. Hetland again. His lock, he chose number 17 Iowa, which was -4 over Nebraska. Close game. I was not there, but I was watching in spirit. Iowa won that game, and then he chose Virginia over number 24 Virginia Tech, and that was also correct.
It was a really good game for Iowa bettors, I guess. Anyways, Schaaf took number 10 Penn State, which is -39 over Rutgers. That was correct. And his upset was Minnesota over number 12 Wisconsin, which is +3, and that was incorrect.
Mr. Hetland, as I said before, came into the week tied for last at 12 and 10. He chose Penn State over Rutgers for his lock, and his upset he picked Kansas State plus 4.5 over number 23 Iowa State, and that was correct as well.
Mr. Christensen took unranked Louisiana Tech, which is -21 over Texas San Antonio.
Tell me if you've ever heard about either of those teams.
I think I've heard of Louisiana Tech maybe once, but
maybe.
Definitely not Texas San Antonio. Anyways, Louisiana Tech took the game, and his upset was number 8 Minnesota over number 12 Wisconsin, and we have in fact heard that is incorrect.
So standings coming into this conference championship week, week 15, I believe. I'm in sole possession of the lead at 16 and 8, and tied for second, or tied for last, however you want to see it. Dawson, Charlie, Mr. Denning, Mr. Schaefer, Mr. Hetland, Mr. Christensen, 17 and 9.
Pretty close matchup this week, and tell a lot. So basically what we're going to do in this next segment is go through the conference championship game and then tell everybody's picks. So it's going to be, we're going to preview the game.
We're going to preview the game, tell the picks. Yes.
Perfect. So right away, we got Pac-12, Utah versus Oregon.
Utah's coming to the game. I think the spread is updated to -6. We can look at this.
Yeah, I'll check out, and I'll get you a little bit of a.
I believe it's -6 now. The spread has been it's been staying steady mostly, but it's been going between 6 and 7, I believe. I think this is going to be a really good matchup between two.
I do too. That is tonight at 7 on ABC. Today is Friday.
We're recording a day late, but that's fine.
What are we thinking? You think Oregon? I mean, Oregon's definitely coming back for blood. I mean, after they took that pretty big blow to Arizona State. As we know, Herm Edwards and Arizona State took that game. Now they're 13. Utah's 5. I think Oregon's going to come out with a lot of fire, and especially if it's at a neutral site.
It's going to be a really good game. All of these games are going to be really good. Utah...
Maybe except the ACC.
Well, that's a 29-point spread, but I mean, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Utah coming in at number 5. This would be a Cinderella story, if anything, if they could get in. Like, Minnesota would have been a good one, but Utah, they just kind of flown under the radar. You know, I've seen some ESPN analysts talk about this Utah team, and they say that, yes, they're underrated, but are they actually? Because
that's the question.
And when you look at it,
when they play, they have to play Oregon, and they have to.
If they win,
they have to totally.
This is the game to prove for them that they're worth it, because they came in. I think we're at 24 at the beginning of the season. They just kind of worked their way up. They're hovering 5 to 8. They're in the top 8. Got to top 5. Now it's just if they can win this game. And I think if they win this game, I get a little ahead of myself, but they're in the playoffs.
And I think they almost have to be, because you got LSU, Georgia. Georgia's a 2-loss team. Utah hasn't lost a game. Or I don't believe
they have lost one. They're 11-1. Yes.
So I don't know. Does the committee favor a team like Georgia, who's played the LSU's and the Bamas, or not the Bama? I don't think they played Bama this year, did they? No, they didn't. But they played the LSU's and the good SEC teams. Well, you have the Pac-12 and Utah, who literally played Oregon. That's it. Mm-hmm. So
it's going to be interesting. But as a group, we have 4 favored towards Utah, 3 favored towards Oregon. I have Utah. Dawson and Charlie have Oregon. Mr. Denning and Mr. Schaefer have Utah. Mr. Hetland has Oregon. Mr. Christensen has Utah.
It's definitely probably the most impactful game, in my opinion, other than the SEC championship, that we'll see. Maybe the Big Ten. I think the SEC and the Pac-12 are the biggest championship games this weekend.
And neither of them are being played in prime time, I don't think.
I know.
Ohio State's the final game. Clemson's the one before that.
Because tomorrow night is Ohio State, Wisconsin at 7 on Fox, and then Baylor, Oklahoma play at 11 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we have the night game, which is on ABC, which is Virginia and Clemson, which isn't going to be fun to watch, because unless Virginia can pull something out, and we'll get to this in a bit, but I just think
maybe they can. I don't know. Okay, so we as a group are in favor of Utah in this one. It could go either way. It's 4-3. That's Pac-12. Our thoughts. Let's go to the Sun Belt, where we have number 21 Appalachian State coming into the game 11-1, and they're favored by 6 points, now 6.5, against a 10-2 Louisiana Lafayette. Thoughts?
I know I have a good coaching for a coach that coached me back in the day from Louisiana Lafayette, and this is kind of the first time that Lafayette's been on the map. But I just don't think that they can go in and obviously all these games are at a neutral site. It's going to be so hard for Louisiana Lafayette to be able to beat Appalachian State.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, if they had a home field advantage,
and
it'd be a lot closer, but I think Appalachian State's going to take this one. As a group, we're favored 6-1 to Appalachian State.
I've only seen Appalachian State play one time, and it was the game they lost. They played horrid. It was terrible. Like, I don't know what happened or what could have happened, but they just didn't show up, and that was their only loss of the whole season. They've rebounded, and they're literally ranked 21 in the country in the Sun Belt. You ever heard of the Sun Belt? Exactly.
No. So I think this game really doesn't have any sway on the playoffs, but it's just fun to talk about these championship games. Like I said,
because it's their own little world, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Everyone except for Mr. Denning has Appalachian State. He chose Louisiana Lafayette. That's the Sun Belt. Now we go to the MAC conference, which we have Central Michigan.
What's that stand for? Something athletic conference.
That's a good question. I can't see it on here.
Yeah.
The spread is we have Central Michigan, who is favored by 6.5 points, taking on Miami, Ohio. You know, it's weird. It's weird to talk about these games because you only really pick them. You really only pick against them. Miami, Ohio is coming in 7-5. Central Michigan's coming in 8-4 in the conference championship. So the conference.
Well, they play the teams. Mm-hmm. They're the teams that go in, and they're basically Ohio State's bye week.
Yeah, I mean, there's no really other way to put it, to be honest.
Yeah, and Michigan's a good opponent. It's in-state rivalry for Michigan, Central Michigan. But I think everyone's going to take Central Michigan on this one. I think they're going to run away with this one.
We're favored 6-1, Central Michigan. Mr. Christensen picked Miami, Ohio. We just don't know why. But, yeah, that'll be a good game. No sway whatsoever on the playoffs, obviously, because they each have either 4 or 5 losses. So now we go to the Big 12. This one's going to be a good game.
It's going to be a good game, but I don't think this is going to... Unless Baylor can get a loss to Utah or a loss to Georgia, Baylor or Oklahoma probably won't get in. But I think Oklahoma is definitely going to take this game, even though they're ranked behind Baylor. But if Baylor wins and a loss to Utah and a loss to Georgia happens, are they in?
Okay, I have these rankings messed up here.
You may
Oklahoma is 6, Baylor is 7.
Oh, okay, my bad.
On here it says number 7, Oklahoma versus
Okay,
number
that's
6
fine.
Baylor.
That's fine.
Okay, so we have number 6 Oklahoma favored by 9 points against number 7 Baylor. We are 6-1 in favor of Oklahoma. Now we can talk about a little playoff picture here because Georgia.
Somebody's gonna have to lose in this LSU Georgia game.
It's 2 of the top 4 teams, and somebody's gonna have to get knocked down. If Georgia loses, say Utah wins and Oklahoma wins, if you're the committee, you have a 1-loss Oklahoma team and a 1-loss Utah team. Who would you put in that number 4 spot to take on LSU or Ohio State, depending on if they win?
I don't know. I think we should we should get to this in a second. I think we should finish this baby out and then we'll
finish the entire thing and then talk. Okay.
Because I haven't quite decided yet.
Yeah, 6-1 Oklahoma. The only person that didn't take Oklahoma was Baylor, obviously he took Baylor. Mr. Helton took Baylor. He's really making moves here, but
he's trying to get in, but this is a week. It's a turning point for everybody.
Now we have the USA Conference. UAB.
I think this is their
9-3.
This is their first year in football.
Versus Florida Atlantic, favored by 7.5. Florida Atlantic is also 9-3. The spread is now -8. Florida Atlantic. We are split 4-3 Florida Atlantic. Really no sway on anything here. One of these. This is going to be another one of those Central Michigan versus Miami, Ohio. It could go either way.
Because Florida Atlantic plays the Miamis and the Floridas. And really, if Florida beat Georgia, Florida would be in the contention too. But Florida's not even on the list because they didn't beat Georgia and they could have too. It's too bad. But Florida's gonna have a good football team next year. That's gonna be something to look out for. Anyways,
that'll be something to watch. So we're split 4 Florida Atlantic, 3 to UAB.
I have Florida Atlantic, and so does he.
We have Florida Atlantic.
So does Schaefer, and so does Christian.
So does Schaefer and Christian. So that's about enough of that. We don't really can't really talk about teams that we haven't.
They're not even rated.
Yeah. So then we go to the American Conference. We have number 17 Memphis, who is favored by 9.5 still, 11-1, taking on number 20 Cincinnati. It is 5-2 Memphis over Cincinnati, according to us. Now we're not any professionals by any means, but I mean. We watched a little bit of college football between the 7 of us. What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't know. They played last week, so it's a rematch of last week's game. I'll get a score here quick.
I believe Memphis won that game.
I'll go back a week and just make sure. Yeah, so Memphis won by 10, 34-24. Note, it was at Memphis. Neutral site now. I'm thinking it's hard to beat a team twice. It's at a neutral site. Cincinnati. That's what my basis of it is. And Cincinnati played a pretty tough game. I mean, considering who Ohio State is, played a pretty tough game against Ohio State. So, I don't know. And if Cincinnati isn't where they are, I think that Ohio State's not where they are because just how good that win is. They base off of how good that and how important that win was to Cincinnati. I think it's definitely going to be a good game, but I took Cincinnati in my case.
I took Memphis personally. So 5-2 in favor of Memphis. I think if Memphis wins, they will not cover the spread because it's really hard to beat a team twice.
It is.
And it's really hard to beat a team twice back-to-back weeks. So that kind of plays into it a lot, actually. But there we have it. Everyone, except for you and Dawson, picked Cincinnati. So that's about that. And then we go to the presumably biggest game of the week here.
Definitely.
The SEC Championship, we have number 2 LSU coming in favored by 7 points. They're still favored by 7 points, undefeated, against a number 4 Georgia team who is 11-1.
This game is going to be a turner for the playoff picture. This is why these conference championship games are important, is just because of this game. I don't know. I could see a Georgia maybe winning. I just don't see LSU giving up this time of year. I just think that their drive and their want for this national championship.
Because essentially they have 3 games. Conference championship, semifinals, finals. 3 games and you got a national championship. You've already played
and they
12.
Could do it.
You think you're going to slow down? I don't think so.
I think they could do it, but Georgia's standing in the way, and so is a team like a Clemson, and so is a team like a Ohio State. So there's 3 teams that are standing in the way of this LSU team. Whoever wins the game, I think if LSU even loses the game, they're going to go to a 4. Georgia wins, they're going to go to a 3, and we'll have Ohio State, Clemson, LSU are probably at a 3 still, or maybe at 4. Georgia, LSU is just too good.
Yeah, if they lose this game, you can't. I don't think you can take them out of the.
I don't think you could.
Top 4, because they are definitely a top 4 team. Yeah, we'll get into that later. LSU.
But if LSU beats Georgia, Georgia's not going to be in.
No, I don't.
It's hands down.
We were favored 5-2 LSU. Dawson picked Georgia. Mr. Helton picked Georgia. Again, Mr. Helton is trying to go for these money moves so that they pay off. He's trying to get a 2-3 game lead. He even told me that this morning. Now we go to the Mountain West Conference. We have number 19 Boise State favored by 14 points against Hawaii.
Straight Boise State off the board.
Boise State's 11-1. Hawaii's 9-4. Hawaii was a good team at the beginning of the season.
They were. I think they were ranked at one point, maybe. I don't know. It's interesting to see the difference between this Boise State team and Hawaii. Boise State really could have had a good team. They dropped a couple. What's their record?
9-4.
9-4. They dropped a couple. I don't think if they would have lost maybe 2, they could have been in this this talk of maybe being in this contention for the playoffs. But they dropped one here and there, and it was just not a great season for Boise State. Even though they were senior heavy this year. Like LSU, they are going to be kind of a not as relevant next year. I don't think this was their year if they were going to do it. I think Boise State really takes this game because they're senior heavy and they've been in these bowl situations or these big game type situations.
Yep, we are a clean sweep across the board. This is one of 2 out of the 10 games that we are a clean sweep across the board. 7 picks to Boise State, 0 to Hawaii. Okay. That's enough of that, Mountain West. Let's go to the Big Ten.
Big game.
Where we have number 1 Ohio State, who comes in 12-0, favored by 16.5 over number 8 Wisconsin. Wisconsin is 10-2.
I just don't see Wisconsin. Obviously, we talked earlier. It's hard to beat a team twice. Neutral site in Indianapolis. Big Ten championships, always a fun one. It's gonna be somebody's trying to call me. But I think it's going to be definitely an Ohio State game. Maybe even 20 points. I think Ohio State's going to run away with it.
I think that's even coming from a Wisconsin fan here, but this is coming from a person who, he's
seen Wisconsin play.
I've seen Wisconsin play in person. Here's their style of offense, Wisconsin. They run the ball. They're almost basically tell you where they're going to run it most of the time.
And they say stop.
And they say, try and stop it.
And their line
and once you stop it once, you're going to throw it over your head. That's just how they play.
The ESPN ratings has Wisconsin's offensive line at 99 and out of 99. That's as high as they can go. Compared it to who'd they compare it to? I think it was like a Memphis team who was rated 44. So they have a rating scale of 99 out of 99. Why wouldn't you run the ball? Jonathan Taylor is
good running back, good offensive line.
It could happen, but they have to be able to execute them run plays, and they have to come up with something new, I think, because there's no way that Ohio State's planned for this game. They have been, okay, we need to get by such and such. This is a big game for us. We get by them. Okay, now we're looking at Wisconsin. We got 2 weeks to prepare for Wisconsin because we assumed that they're not going to beat Minnesota. And what happened? They beat Minnesota. So now we got Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship. Ohio State's been watching film for these guys for at least 3 weeks. You can't tell me I'm wrong. They're ready for this team, and they're going to win.
Yeah. I think if Wisconsin turns the ball over once or punts more than, I'd say, 5 times. They punt 5, maybe even 4. If they punt 4 times or turn the ball over once, donezo.
The linebacker.
Ohio State covers the spread. We are 6-1. Ohio State, the spread is 16.5, by the way. That's 3 touchdowns. So, we are 6-1. Dawson picks Wisconsin. He's a little out of his mind, I guess, but
if Wisconsin can pull it off, it's because the linebackers for Wisconsin are so good, and the offensive line and the coaching staff from Wisconsin pulled something new out of the hat because there's no way that they can come out with what they have. All props to the quarterback for Wisconsin, but he's not great. He is a pocket passer. He doesn't like to. He's not the super most mobile guy. He's kind of it's a one and done type deal. He's there, and if he's not there, that's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's not the most accurate guy either. I mean, it's unfortunate for Wisconsin's sake. I mean, as a Wisconsin fan, we can always look forward to next year because Jonathan Taylor's a junior.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go to the ACC now. We have another clean sweep. Number 3, Clemson, favored by 28.5 points. The spread opened at 21.5. Over number 23, Virginia. I think Virginia's going to be coming off with a lot of fire at the beginning.
Definitely.
But I don't think they can keep up with
They
this
might
Clemson
score
team.
first. They might score first in this game, but there's no way that they take it because Clemson's just too explosive in every position, and their recruiting class of last year is phenomenal. And their recruiting class this year, I've been following some of the players that they're getting. That defense they had last year, that they say they don't have this year, they're going to have next year for sure. So Clemson's not going to be one to sleep on next year. Clemson, if you think Clemson's good this year, wait till next year. I am telling you they're going to be crazy good. They're going to need a good running back. But let's talk about this Clemson team this year. Defensively, no one's giving Clemson credit that they deserve. Dabo Swinney legitimately thinks that the committee hates him. They should be at the 1, in my opinion. I honestly think the way they've been playing, they had one close game to North Carolina when a couple players were hurt and the defense was banged up, and now they're a 3 seed because they had a close game to a North Carolina team where, I don't know, this game in Ohio State and LSU, depends how close they are, I think that there's a flying chance that you could see Clemson at a 2 seed this week. I do. I think that it could be unveiled that they're at the 2, and it's out. I think that could be what it happens.
Clemson, they're getting zero respect whatsoever. They have a great team overall, an amazing offense. Not as good as a defense as they'd like, I'm sure.
Defense last year was just phenomenal, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can't really compare it, but they have a good defense. Spread's 28.5. Clemson covers.
Definitely.
I think Clemson covers. Ohio State covers. Yeah, I think it's just they're just that good, and Virginia might score first, but.
So basically, everyone took Clemson clean sweep here too.
Yeah, clean sweep here, Clemson.
All right, let's get into this next thing here.
Like I said, we don't have a wheel or a sheet of topics. We're just gonna go off what we think.
Okay, so first thing, if you were to give your top 4 after this week, and just into your total opinion, what is your top 4? And before I ask you that, Ohio State or LSU at 1?
I've believed since Ohio State and LSU have been 1 and 2, which is like 6 or something, I don't know. I have been a strong believer that LSU is the number 1 team in the nation.
I can agree.
And what really boggles my mind here is how the committee puts Ohio State at 1. They're good. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're bad.
But who they played is the question, and that's why we put LSU at 1.
Exactly. LSU has proven themselves against good teams, and I have been a strong believer that LSU's been number 1. Now, LSU, I believe, wins against Georgia. Ohio State wins against Wisconsin. Clemson wins, which means, and I think, I don't know.
This
Oklahoma's going to win. Oklahoma's going to win. It really comes down to the Pac-12. If Oregon can pull something off or not. But
you might see Baylor out of 4. You or Oklahoma. I mean, you might see Oklahoma or Baylor even.
Or Baylor if Baylor wins.
Baylor's not out.
So. I know. I think after this week, LSU wins, they go to number 1. Wisconsin wins, they stay number 2. Or maybe they go to number 3 and Clemson goes 2. I don't know. But it wouldn't really matter because they play each other anyway. But I think Ohio State goes 2, Clemson goes 3, Georgia gets knocked down, they're essentially out. Utah wins, and Oklahoma wins, and then it's up to the committee, which 0 faith in the committee. I have as much faith in the committee as I do for the referees replaying pass interference in the NFL, which we'll get to that later anyway. I think if I was on the committee, which I really wish I would,
yes,
because
that's
Utah,
what we're gonna do when we get older. Just go literally be on the committee and watch college football for a living and get paid for it. So
I think Georgia out, LSU 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, Oklahoma 4.
Obviously you said it depends on this Pac-12 team or this Pac-12 game.
But I think even if they win,
I agree.
Personally,
if Oregon even puts up a fight against Utah wins it, I don't think they're in. But if Utah wins by 21 or more, they're in, I think. My personal opinion, they should have a play-in game for the 4th seed. You should have an Oklahoma versus Utah game. But I got the same thing as you. LSU 1. I got Ohio State 2, Clemson 3 play-in game for that last Utah versus Oklahoma.
It's a toss-up between Utah and Oklahoma.
And I don't know what they favor. It's going to be a vote. And right now, Utah and Baylor, or Utah and Oklahoma, both have a loss. I think Oklahoma wins it versus Baylor. Depends how much they win by. Everything's based on what the committee sees. And I see, in my opinion, I'm with you. I put Oklahoma at the 4. If I really had to come down and I had to choose over Utah or Oklahoma, I choose Oklahoma.
And Oklahoma only has 1 loss in the season, and
it's 2K State. And who did Utah lose to? Can you look that up? I think that'd be interesting to know. Utah lost to someone back a while ago. It wasn't too recent, I don't think, because
they lost to USC.
Yeah, USC.
And USC is currently
not even ranked, probably.
No, I don't even think they're
maybe
ranked.
23.
I can't even see their schedule. Let's see. They're 1-0.
So, but anyways, back to my point though. K-State's not great either. So
3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, 6-4, 7-4, 8-4.
So we got an 8-4 team versus in K-State, who's really not terrible either with a new coach this year.
They were a good team to pick upsets on. And they won a couple upsets between them and Texas Tech. I won 4 upsets between Texas Tech and K-State. And
they were a big team, solid team this year.
Yeah.
They really put in work.
They really were.
Anyways, back to what we're saying though. I have Oklahoma at the 4. And if we could have a playing game versus Oklahoma, Utah, whoever gets in, gets in. But that would be a crazy football game.
That would be insane. A spot in the college football playoffs on the line, playing that game.
Imagine if they do that. We pegged it here on the podcast.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
All right, anyways.
All right. Now we've got that situation. Let's kind of switch gears here to the NFL.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson, MVP, yes or no?
Not even a question. It's amazing what he does. He's 64 or 68 yards away from breaking Michael Vick's rushing record in a season. And he still has, 4 weeks?
I think there's 3 or 4 weeks.
I think 4 weeks left to do
in regular season, and then you have all sorts of playoffs. So
and they're making playoffs. So.
Yeah.
So if he gets about 50 a game for sure. So I don't think he gets it this week, but he'll get it next week for sure.
I think so.
So
yeah, I think Lamar Jackson, between him and Russell Wilson's been playing really good too. But he's every time I watch the Minnesota-Seattle game on my computer, every time I looked up, DK Metcalf had the ball. And he's obviously seen, and that's coming from me, I'm pretty salty because Tyler Lockett He's on my fantasy team. 0 receptions, 0 yards. But that's besides the point anyway. So, Lamar Jackson MVP.
Definitely.
Dallas Cowboys, I'm just going to say this. They are leading their division right now.
Well, they lost last night.
They are still leading their division at 6-7.
Well, they're losing record.
They're almost guaranteed in the playoffs because I think the Eagles are going to lose out. Everyone in their division is going to lose out.
The Eagles got the Giants this week because I got like 3 of the Eagles players in fantasy. So
yeah,
they got the Giants. That'll be a nice thing. But unfortunately, Trubisky's heating up for me, and I have him on fantasy, so it's hard for me to make decisions.
Trubisky he's playing good now, and I saw a stat over the weekend. First of all, I saw 2 stats. The last time Nick Saban and Bill Belichick lost in the same weekend was 8 years ago. That's number 1. Number 2, Mitch Trubisky has a better completion percentage at this point of the season than Tom Brady.
Okay, that's definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, Tom Brady is not playing as good this year. I'm not saying he's playing bad, but he's not playing as good.
I don't think it's as much him as who he needs. He needs somebody else.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
He can't run the show by himself, and his running backs are literally not putting up numbers they did last year. The offensive line doing what?
Yeah. I like
defensively they're not bad though. Defensively they're a pretty solid team.
Defensively.
But offensively they can't get everything going because you can't score all your points off of defense and just get that lucky. I don't know. But every time we count Bill Belichick out, what happens? I mean,
he's right there. He comes back, and
here they come.
You see his face in the Super Bowl. So I mean, it's hard to do that.
It is.
The Cowboys, though, back to the Cowboys, 6-7. They're leading the division. Even though they're 6-7 at this point. Are they 6-8? 6-7? I think they're 6-7.
Something like 6-7. Sounds about right.
They have an 80% chance to make the playoffs at 6-7, and that's just how bad their division is. I don't know who's in their division.
It's the Eagles, the Giants, and the Redskins.
That explains a lot right there.
And the Redskins maybe won 2 games. No, maybe 3. 2, maybe 3. Anyways,
I think they're 3 and something.
Total garbage.
The Dallas Cowboys are more inconsistent than...
Dallas is 6-7.
Yeah. They are more inconsistent than the replay review for pass interference. And that is extremely inconsistent. I don't even know if they're inconsistent anymore. They're just bad.
It is bad.
The last 2 games they've played, they've gotten the opening kickoff, drove down the field, scored right away. And then what happened yesterday, they did not score the rest of the first half. They first drive, went down and scored. They did not score the rest of the half.
It was fun to watch, though, I guess.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see what they put together, and that was it. So, I don't know. You can say whatever. The team's just a total discombobulation right now.
If you're Jerry Jones right now, who do you fire and when?
I don't fire Jason Garrett yet. I don't. I think the first thing that needs to happen is you need to get new offensive specialists because the communication between Dak Prescott and his wide receivers is not happening. Ezekiel Elliott's not running the ball like he used to. I mean, you can't say it's Jason Garrett's fault because he's trying.
It's really not. I mean, you look at it. This one throw stands out to me. Bears are in zone coverage. He has the entire middle of the field, 15, 20 yards down. He has Amari Cooper wide open. He was running across, splitting the zone. Throws a pass, it hits the ground 3 yards before it gets to Amari Cooper.
There's 2 of those passes yesterday too because they're number 40-something ran out of the backfield into the flat outside and he just kept running. Well, Dak just threw it his legs and he was still running when the ball hit the ground. He didn't even know it was coming. So the miscommunication stuff like that is huge fact.
I don't even think it's miscommunication at this point. It's just Dak Prescott. And I think if you're Jerry Jones, obviously the Dallas fans want Jason Garrett to be fired.
I don't think
I personally don't think he needs to be fired. I think it's his team. And Jason Garrett is coaching his team like any coach would. And he's doing what any coach would. And he's trying. I mean, he's trying his hardest out there. And he's got Dak Prescott, who didn't complete half of his passes. And Ezekiel Elliott, who's just, I don't know what's happening to him this year. Their offensive line is still good.
Their offensive line is doing pretty well. Other than sometimes you see mishaps from Travis Frederick on the offensive line, which is kind of interesting to see because he's always been a pretty solid guy. A couple mishaps last night I was watching, and it was interesting to see because he's usually one of the most, if not the most consistent offensive lineman in the league. I don't know, a couple mishaps last night, but that Bears defense is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. But you can't even count that out because it was just Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I honestly think if you're Jerry Jones, you let go of Dak Prescott and try getting a quarterback out of the draft.
They need to trade Dak Prescott, I think.
Actually, yeah, they need to trade Dak Prescott, but
they need to get rid of. I think it's not necessarily Dak. I think that they need to get guys that are new. They need to get a new system going, because every time the Vikings have a good year, what happens? Their offensive coordinator leaves, and they have to get a new system. Well, the new system gives teams less information to figure out what you're doing. Well, Jason Garrett's been coaching for how long?
10 years.
They figured out his thing by now, and they know what he's going to do. They know what his game plan is. They know almost every trick up his sleeve. So, I don't know.
Yeah. So, let's talk about the Vikings quick. They lost to a good Seattle team Monday.
It was a good game. Solid game.
It was a good game to watch. It was two good teams going at it. Do they still have a chance to make it to the playoffs? Right now, they're currently sitting at a wild card.
I think that they will maybe even hop up to the 5 spot in the wild card. But if they do, they got to get a team like Seattle to lose more, because they have to get Seattle to lose, or they have to get 49ers to lose 2 games, and the Vikings have to win out. Well, we have the Chargers, the Lions, the Packers, and like one other team. It's going to be, I think, maybe the Bears, too.
The Bears.
Yeah, the Bears.
We finish out the season with the 3 conference games.
Yeah, but we have the Chargers. We have the Lions, the Bears, and then somebody else, and the Packers, and something like that. Anyways, I don't know. The Vikings really kind of write their own story. I'd like to see them in the playoffs, but right now we're dinged up. Dalvin Cook might not even play against Detroit this weekend. We might. It's tough to say. I mean, it's tough to say because Thielen, you don't know if he's going to be back or not, and Diggs can't run the show. Obviously, Diggs is playing pretty great this year. Makes me wonder what the Vikings' plan is, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think that this year I would not. What was I going to say? They're not 100% in because of all their injuries. Dalvin Cook, it's sounding like I haven't seen anything, but I don't think he'll be back this week.
No, he won't. I don't think.
And maybe if they lose this week and lose next week without him, I just don't think they'll. I think
they have to. They have to maybe have room for a loss against maybe a Packer team. Maybe they could win the division though. Maybe they beat the Packers, and obviously then at the tie, I don't know how the tie works or what, but if they win the division, it'd be a big thing. They need to try the Packers.
And right now, the Packers are a game ahead.
A 1 game ahead, but they do play the Packers again, which could tighten that thing up.
So if they get their record even, or even
but the Packers did win
right now, and then they beat the Packers, they're even. But I think if they beat the Packers, they'll have
They
enough.
need to try to win out and hopefully get help from another team to have a Packer loss. That would be a big thing. Obviously, the Packers are a good team, but it'd be really, really nice and comfortable for us to get into that upper seed and guarantee ourselves a spot in the playoffs. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see what rolls out. Basically, let's see how the Packers do. So
I think we have time for a couple more. Got anything?
I don't know. I think basketball's starting this week. Kind of a cool deal. We have our first game in
Gregory on the 3rd.
For next Friday, I think.
A week from today.
A week from today, yeah.
A week from today in Gregory, a doubleheader. So that'll be fun to open up the season. It's been a good week of practice.
Has been. I've
been talking to Coach K, Mr. Christensen, and he said his practice has been going good. I think both of our basketball teams are going to be pretty solid this year.
I think our girls team is going to be phenomenal, and our boys team hopefully make a run at state. I think the girls team kind of writes their own path and what they want to do. I think they're almost a guaranteed spot in state, but I think the boys team really needs to put their head down and grind right now, and that's what Mr. Inning's preaching. We need to put our heads down, give effort, and it's a matter of how bad we want it, because last year it wasn't quite like this. I think we need a little bit more effort in practice, and I think he's making us try a little bit more. So that's fun. But
so we'll see how the season progresses. First game a week from today. We'll probably have that preview next week on the podcast. But is that it from you?
I think so. One quick note: I think we may have Zach McKinnon on podcast coming up here soon.
It'll be next. It'll be like episode 21-ish.
Yeah, something like that. Because we'll have 20 next week, so yeah, 21 will be.
Yep.
And that'll be. We're gonna probably have to do that on a. I don't know what day we're gonna have to do that on, because we have semester tested. Anyways, we'll talk it over.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out.
We'll figure it out, and we might have to come in here during a free time or something. It's all right.
That's all right. We'll figure it out. So.
Yep.
With that concludes this podcast, episode 19 from Cole Larsh, Charlie Preen. Yeah, we'll see you later.
Oh, broke the tingy. Shut your deal off. Oh, wow.
There we go.